What is it that's causing this mass dysregulation? Like, I can throw bro science out there and guess what I think is going on, but is there any longitudinal research looking at the average amount of time that people used to spend asleep, do now, quality of sleep, micro awakenings, REM, deep, etc.? What are we looking at kind of across time with regards to sleep over the last 50 years?
Ooh, such a good question. So as you know, things have changed dramatically in the last about 50 years. And one thing to kind of transition into that, and part of the reason that my first book, Sleep Smarter, was so successful is that I understood the missing link between all this incredible insight and all the science we've gained the past 50 years and making it applicable for people, which is we need to make this simple because it is. And so coming from a conventional education, I started off my career, I've been in the field for 21 years now, speaking in the language of academia. And a little not so fun fact is that it takes upwards of about 15 years for us to have like a gold standard, randomized, placebo-controlled, double-blind study, all the things that might affirm, what we're talking about today with improving your sleep quality before it gets like put into conventional education. All right, it's a huge lag. And this is in the age of the internet. All right, it doesn't make any sense. And so what I did was, because of working with people, which is very different than just, again, working from theory, which that can be true, but it's different when you sit face to face with somebody and they're depending on you to help them to get where they want to be. And I knew this really interesting secret about humans, which is we want change. We want change. We want the results, but we don't want to change much to get it. And okay, I'm going to say that again. We want change, but we don't want to change that much. We might not be happy with where we are, who we are, but we're comfortable with that. And so changing too much at once creates so much turbulence. And so what we would ideally want is take who we are now and give us the new body. Take this person, give me the money, right? I don't have to qualify myself to have it. And so knowing that this is the case, I started looking for what are the lowest hanging fruits, right? What are the things people can do to optimize their sleep quality without having to turn their life upside down? And so I was looking for things that were science-backed, but very simple. Now, saying all this to transition this into this question, in the last 50 years, we've seen the onset of hustle culture, right? There's always, throughout humanity, there's always been a certain guild of people who are, quote, burning the midnight oil and looking out and, standing guard for our tribe and whatnot. But that's a small sect of humans. For the most part, nighttime, danger. We don't see like other animals do. Like that lion can see you at night. You can't necessarily see it. We're not really hardwired for nocturnal activity. With that being the case, optimizing what we're doing during the day is going to help us to actually sleep better at night. And that's really the key. So one of my tenets is that a good night of sleep starts the moment that you wake up in the morning. And understanding we've kind of devolved from our state of seeking shelter, seeking comfort at night in a safe place, and waiting for the sun to rise, basically, so that things are safer. Now we've created this situation where we can basically, like I mentioned earlier, create a 24-hour artificial day, and we can just be up whenever. So this is a new opportunity for us as people. Yes, there were people back in the day, they had a lot of candles, but it's still very different. We evolved even with fire for quite some time. And that candlelight, here's a really interesting study. And this also points to like one of the things that we can do to improve our sleep quality. Some researchers at Cornell took a test subject and put them in a completely dark room. All right. They wanted to track their actual sleep quality. So they were looking at their brain waves. They were looking at what their brain was doing. And they put a light the size of a quarter behind their knee. And that was enough to throw them out of their sleep cycles. So it was disrupting their sleep quality just by that light exposure behind their knee.
Is there something special, photoreceptor modulation behind the knee? Or is this the same as if you did it on the palm of my hand or the back of my shoulder?
It could be pretty much anywhere because our skin from head to toe has photoreceptors that pick up light and send signals to every other cell in our bodies.
But because this particular subject was so deprived of any light, the very small amount of light was, we have no signal. Oh, we do have a signal and it's behind the knee.
Yeah.
And we will follow that based on, and we will then run the circadian clock off that.
because all of our other cells are trying to figure out what time is it.
Yep.
Right? There's this light coming
The
in.
knee knows.
Nisi.
Yeah.
All right. I knew a girl named Nisi. So here's the thing. When we understand this really remarkable influence, if you talk even with, Andrew Huberman in our conversation, really talking about this advent, this new term called light pollution, and how light is top tier as far as really syncing up our cells, our biology with all of life, right? I mentioned that we're kind of lined up with a 24-hour solar day. And so it's light is really the kind of tip of the spear. And so using that to our advantage recently, because we simply didn't know, we just started consuming, like there's a lot, we're in the golden age of television. There's a lot of great stuff to watch. We got our devices and, we got FOMO. There's so much going on. We don't want to miss out. And so we're constantly having this influx of light information, and it's completely throwing our clocks off. I know it when I'm in the studio, for example, all day under artificial lights. I see a noticeable detriment to my sleep quality that night. It is what it is. And I do, but now, of course, I know little things that I can kind of help to optimize this. And so pointing to a tip, like what are one of the things that we could do, knowing that our skin, and by the way, let me give a very logical example. When the sun is hitting your skin, it can literally change the color of your skin. All right. You have photoreceptors that are picking up light all the time. All right. And the sun is very different though. The lux, the power of that light is so otherworldly. It is such a special thing, man. That's how we have life here. And now we, of course, in our culture, we've been sort of programmed more so to fear the sun, right? And so we need to have more balanced perspective. But at the same time, of course, respect it. It's very powerful. With that being said, it's not moonlight that disrupts in the same way that artificial lights do, which the moon can seem kind of bright, like it's a bright moon, but it's the lux of that light, the way that light is emanating, we evolved with that as well. It's like cellular data that makes sense, like it's nighttime.
Andrew said that firelight doesn't disrupt circadian rhythm.
There it is, very simple. And so if we look at what we have had thousands upon thousands of years next to, as far as a light that we create, well, not that we created, but we can generate with fire, that is a different hue, right? It's kind of this orangish, reddish, like it's a softer tone of light. And so if we do want to have some form of light in a room, maybe like a good salt lamp or something on a low dimmer for a night light versus the bright ass like night light that my grandmother gave me, So here's my point. One of the best ways, and the first way that I noticeably improved my sleep quality, and it was one of those launching pads to writing the book in the first place, is when I got some blackout curtains for my room. All right. Total darkness. Never really slept in total darkness before, except when I was at if I go to travel to speak at an event and they had like a really nice hotel room and the blackout curtains. It's like, man, this, and I would attribute it to the place. Like, this place is great, but it's the sleep quality that happened in that environment. And so I got some blackout curtains, and that night, man, my sleep was phenomenal. And so if you are okay with the dark, which most of us are, but of course some people have some neuroassociations where they want to have, maybe a little bit of light. That is one of the fastest ways to improve your sleep quality, because melatonin requires basically two prerequisites. One is darkness, and the other is kind of a cyclical nature, right? Being able to be produced at the same time, essentially, closely, day to day. And this is why we have this new term of social jet lag as well, where, again, we kind of stick to a routine, but on the weekend, everything is like whatever. And then we have that lag on Monday. You got a case of the Mondays. It's not the fact that we're going back to work. It's that, man, my whole shit is thrown off and I'm sleep deprived now.